Hello everyone, my name is Chelsea Kovalevsky and I'm the Assistant Director with the Cherokee Regional Library System. And today we're going to talk about meal planning. Now in the Next Chapter program, you guys have, you'll be talking a lot about budgeting and finances. And one of the easiest ways, one of the most easiest variables to control in your whole household budget is your food line item. Now I myself have a family with 3 children and a husband, and I've been meal planning for over 10 years. In the first year of my marriage, it was only me working. I made $8.75 an hour. My husband was an immigrant and he couldn't work legally in the United States. And so we had to manage our household budget on a very, very low income. So I've been on that side of things. Fortunately, we have a little bit more income coming in now, but I still have that skill set and we still watch our food budget really closely. We try to keep it really low because then we have more money for really fun things like family trips and big purchases. So I'm going to take you through my process today. And so let's just go ahead and get started. So your first step when you are meal planning, you're generally going to want to plan out your entire meal schedule for at least an entire week. Some people do 2 weeks, some people do an entire month. In my household, we just do a week. So that's what we're going to work on today. And your very, very first step is going to go to your refrigerator and open it up and see what food you have in your refrigerator that's going to be going bad in the next couple of days that you can utilize. This is the #1 best step on saving money because that food is already paid for. So if you can incorporate it into a meal, that's going to save you money. So for example, in my refrigerator at home right now, I've got some shredded chicken that's left over when I made some soup and I didn't use all the chicken that I boiled. I've got some leftover rice. So with those 2 things, if I added in an egg, maybe some vegetables, a little seasoning, and I've got chicken fried rice that can feed my family for an entire day. That's an entire meal paid for already with the things that I have on hand. So very first step is going to be checking your fridge, check your cupboards, and what food can you already use, and you're going to build your menu up around that. Now, if you're just getting started, if you are not one to already cook at home, or you've just moved back into a home and you don't have an entire cabinet full of food, obviously that's not going to be an important first step for you. But as you start cooking at home, as you start meal planning, that is going to become more and more important. So just keep in your mind that that's going to be the natural first step. So the next thing we're going to talk about in meal planning our dinners for the week is cost per serving. Sometimes when you buy things, you're buying in bulk. You're buying, say, for example, a bag of rice that is good for many, many meals. You start to lose track of how much a meal really costs. So when you're beginning your meal planning journey, it is super important to sit down and figure out exactly how much does a meal really cost your family. And you're going to start to see some trends. It's going to require some math. It's going to require a lot of time. You're not going to want to do it, but do it. Just go through these steps, at least for the first 2 months of your meal planning journey, because it's really going to open your eyes to the true cost of the foods that you eat. And it may help you figure out which meals you may want that are cheaper for your family. And it will help you make better financial decisions as you're meal planning in the future. So I'm going to take you through that because it can be complicated. There is some math involved, but then I'm going to show you some secrets that'll make it a little bit easier after that. In this example, we're going to be talking about chicken and rice. This meal is a meal that I make for my family sometimes. And a little tidbit, a little secret, the fewer ingredients that you use in a meal, the cheaper the meal is generally going to be. So a lot of people recommend, try to keep it to 5 ingredients or less. That's sometimes doable, sometimes not, but that's what I did for this particular recipe. And in this recipe, it calls for 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breasts, a cup of rice, water, which is free, a package of onion soup mix, and a 10-ounce can of cream of mushroom soup. in order to get the cost per serving, and cost per serving, that means how much does it cost per serving of individual. So if you've got 5 people in your family, 10 people in your family, how much does it cost to feed each person in your family? And so it's really easy. You just take the sum, you add up the cost of each ingredient, and you divide it by the total number of servings. And so usually when you are getting a recipe out of a cookbook or online, the recipe will tell you how many servings there are. Now, generally, maybe sometimes we eat more than 1 serving in one sitting. Maybe I give half a serving to my kids and I eat, a serving and a half. But this is just for the purposes of figuring out how much the meal really costs. This is the way to go about that. So our first step is going to be figuring out how much each ingredient costs. And for that, I'm going to use Walmart Grocery Pickup's website so we can see what the true price of these ingredients are. This is what you can do as well, or after you've been going to the grocery store for a while, maybe you know how much a 5-pound bag of chicken costs, but that's what we're gonna use today. And I do recommend using that at home if you can. So I'm going to pull up the Walmart Grocery Pickup website. I'm gonna start our order, and I'm gonna search for boneless, skinless chicken breasts. So I'm looking at this, you'll see that there are a lot of different options, and we're gonna look at the price per pound, so we're making sure that we're getting the best deal. So you'll see here on the left that you have chicken that's $1.99 per pound, but if we choose this over here, this 5-pound bag of chicken, it's gonna be $1.95 per pound. So obviously that's not a big cost difference, but that is something that you're gonna wanna pay attention to, because sometimes the cost difference is gonna be really big, especially when you're looking at generic brands versus name brands, or if you're buying in bulk. And if you have the room to buy in bulk, I really recommend it, especially if you're just buying for a period of a week. That means that there'll be leftovers, and next week you'll be able to use more. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that to my cart. And now I know that chicken is $1.95 per pound. So we're gonna plug that in there. And $1.95 per pound, but we need 1.5 pounds for this recipe. That means that the cost of chicken for this recipe is gonna be $2.93. Our next ingredient for this recipe is gonna be rice. So again, we're gonna go onto the Walmart Grocery Pickup website, and we're gonna search for rice. And I see a bag of rice here, and this one, it's generic. It's only $1.24 per bag. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that. Now, this is an entire bag of rice, but we only need to use 1 cup. So how do you figure this out? Now, this is where the math is gonna get a little complicated, and you may not want to do this, but if you're capable, if you will just go through the steps, I promise you, over time, you really are going to see some trends. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do the work with you. So let's look on the back of this bag. You can click here on this picture and see the back of the bag and see the serving size. So we're looking at this nutritional label, and we see that this bag has 20 servings, and they consider a serving 1/4 of a cup. So how many cups are in this bag? So we're gonna take the number of servings, which is 20, and we're gonna divide it by 4. And so now we know that there are 5 cups in this bag. So the cost of this bag is $1.24. We're gonna divide it by 5. And so we now know that rice, a cup of rice, is actually only costing us $1/4. Now, when we buy this bag, it's gonna cost us $1.24. But for this recipe, we're only using 25 cents worth. So we know that this recipe only uses 25 cents worth of rice. That's something that's important for us to keep into consideration as we continue this cost per serving journey. Our next recipe is this package of onion soup mix. So I'm gonna search for this on the Walmart Grocery Pickup app website. And I see some onion soup mix here, and it's $1.26. But I'm looking closely at this package, and I see that there's actually 2 packages in the box. So going back to our math, the onion soup mix is $1.26. We're going to divide it by 2 because we're only going to be using one of the 2 packages. And that means that one package is only 63 cents. This is our last ingredient. This one's easy. It calls for 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. So again, I'm going onto the grocery website to see how much it costs. And it looks like for 50 cents, we can get a can of generic cream of mushroom soup. So let's add it all up together. We're adding up the $2.93, the 25 cents, 63 cents, and 50 cents. So the total cost of this meal is actually only $4.31. Now you're saying, wait a minute, Chelsea, I'm gonna have to spend a lot more than $4.31 to buy all of these ingredients. And yes, that's true. But that's why it is so important to use your leftovers. We're buying this 5-pound bag of chicken. We're only using 1.5 pounds. That means we have to make sure that we use the other 3.5 pounds to make our investment worth it. And so we are only using $2.93 of that chicken. That's what we're going to include for this recipe. So we know this recipe is $4.31. And then if you want to know how much it's going to cost to feed each family member, you can then divide it by the serving. So this particular recipe, it technically makes 4 servings. So we just take the $4.31, we divide it by 4, and that means that for $1.08 per person, that's how much it costs. That's how much this meal is. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, I would recommend as you start doing all this math, which I know it's a pain, but you only have to do it once, right? Like it's done, this chicken and rice recipe, it's done. We know that it's always gonna cost about $4.31. And we also know that yes, the price of food does go up, but in general, we know how much this recipe costs. So you put it in your rotation, hey, this is a cheap meal. So if you do, decide that, hey, you know what? I'm gonna buy a couple of steaks to put on the grill, like we're gonna treat ourselves. You can make that happen and then just fill the rest of your week up with meals that are cheaper, like this chicken and rice meal, and you'll know exactly which of your recipes are cheaper. And so what I would recommend and what I do at home is I have a binder with those plastic sleeves in it, and I will print recipes off of the internet and I will just stick them inside those sleeves, and I'll write up at the top how much that meal costs my family. So when I know I need to eat cheaply, I will go to those recipes that are cheaper. And then when I know that we have a little bit of extra money to spend and I want to celebrate, I know which recipes we can eat and we can go to feed my family. So again, this is the process that you don't have to always do. If you are not in the regular habit of meal planning, you really need to start out by understanding how much the true cost of your meal is. There is good news. There are websites out there that have kind of already done the math for you. And I know with the rice, that math got really complicated really fast. And if you were to just say, it looks like, I know I'm probably only gonna use a quarter of the bag, I'm just gonna divide it by 4, you can do that too. But there are some websites out there where the work has been done for you. One of them is budgetbites.com. This is a way where you can just search for recipes and they've already done the math for you, and so you can look and see which ones are cheaper. As you go through this process, you're gonna notice some trends. And so, the obvious ones are, chicken is cheaper than beef, and vegetarian dishes are cheaper than meat dishes. Meals heavy in beans and pasta and rice or potatoes, they're cheaper and they're still nutritious, which is why so many moms will, make those casseroles, because it really stretches out the food budget. When meat is the main ingredient, that meal's gonna cost more. There is another website called spendwithpennies.com. It doesn't break the math out for you, but it does have a lot of really great recipes that don't break the bank. So you don't have to, the math won't be broken out, but if you are looking for meal ideas that are cheaper, that's a good website to go to. I'm gonna pull up my weekly menu. We've figured out what our first meal of the week is gonna be. It's chicken and rice. It's only gonna cost us a total of $4.31. So now I need to figure out what else we're gonna eat this week. Well, our very next question should be, how are we gonna use that chicken? Because we bought a 5-pound bag of chicken, there's 3.5 pounds left. I need to find some more chicken recipes. So Here is my sample menu plan. And you see I went ahead and did all the math for you. We're not gonna go through that again. And so I've got chicken and rice on Monday, spaghetti and green beans on Tuesday, chicken fried rice on Wednesday, chili on Thursday, chili dogs and fries on Friday, pancakes, apple slices, and scrambled eggs on Saturday, and fajitas on Sunday. So you'll notice I threw in 2 more chicken recipes because I had 3.5 more pounds of chicken to go through. And so I thought, well, chicken fried rice, I know that's cheap. It'll use some of the rice that we've already purchased. It'll use the chicken that we have left over. And so I calculated that out. That's only $6.19. And then on Sunday, we'll have fajitas. And actually, what's interesting to note there, what's making that such an expensive meal is the bell peppers. Bell peppers are super expensive. So if you wanted to take those out and just have it with onions, you could, and that would drop the price significantly, especially if there's no one in your household who likes green peppers. Another thing I did to help save money is you'll notice on Thursday, we had chili, and that's using ground beef, which is a little bit more expensive than chicken. And so then the next day, we had chili dogs and fries. And you'll see that that's one of the cheaper things on the menu. And that's because for the chili dogs and fries, all we had to purchase was the hot dogs, the buns, and the fries, because the chili was already made and already paid for the day before. So I'm using the leftovers from Thursday and applying it to Friday. Over time, as you kind of think about how you can use leftovers from the meal before, you may start to have some meals that you generally have together. So for example, in the holiday time, when the holiday time comes, we always have a ham, and then about 2 days later, I will make ham and scalloped potatoes to reuse that ham, because the ham's huge. We're not all gonna sit it, like there's only 5 of us in our family. And then a couple days after that, I'll have a ham bone soup, and usually we have enough for ham and our breakfast eggs. So you'll start to kind of realize, oh, when I have this meal, these other meals will follow, and that just comes with time. So we're looking at our weekly menu, and we are looking at the total cost of these meals is actually only $41.81. That's when you look at all the costs. You know, I've got chicken and rice, $4.31, spaghetti and green beans, $7. That's the actual cost of the ingredients that are consumed to make that meal. It's only $41.81. Now, if we go over to Walmart grocery shopping cart that I created, I'm gonna scroll down, you're gonna see the actual total to buy all those ingredients is $67.27. And that's because we're not using all the ingredients, right? I've got ground beef here, I didn't use it all. So we're gonna have more ground beef to use next week for next week's shopping trip, and that'll be purchased, but we're not using it this week. And that's, again, another reason why it's so important to make sure that you are checking your fridge, checking your cabinets, looking at those expiration dates, and using the food that you have on hand. That is how you're gonna save money. I looked up a little factoid. 40 million tons of food is thrown away every year in the United States of America. And when you break that down, that's an average of 250 pounds per person. So I've got 5 people in my family, 1,250 pounds of food is thrown away. Let's just say that we're spending $1 per pound. That's $1,250 a year that we are throwing away on average. But you know who's doing it? It's not those people who are menu planning and using their leftovers. Those people are not throwing food away. So be that person, save that money, and let those other poor schmucks waste it. One thing I do recommend is that when you are going through the meal planning process, that you are actually shopping while you meal plan. And I do that by using the Walmart grocery app because it gives me real-time prices for the ingredients that I am using. Now you could do that to kind of get a gist of how much you're spending, and then still take that list, and instead of going to Walmart grocery pickup, which is a pretty good deal but not the best deal, you could go to Aldi or like Save a Lot and go to one of those stores that have even cheaper prices than Walmart. You're still getting a good general gist of how much you're spending, but then saving even more money by going to a discount grocery store. Also coupons. I myself am not a couponer because I don't feel like I have the time to really do it well. But there are people who kind of know that there are certain ingredients that they are constantly buying, and they look out for those coupons and they purchase them. You cannot use coupons with Walmart grocery pickup. That's kind of how they're paying for the service, I feel like. You do go to the store, the less time you spend in that store, the less money you will spend. That is why Walmart grocery pickup can be such a helpful tool, because you're not, like, you're buying what you say you're gonna buy, and there is no distractions. There's no, those cookies look good, or I really need that t-shirt. You're staying out of the store and you're just getting what you want. But if you are going into a store, make sure that you bring your list of things that you're buying, and do not buy anything that is not on that list. Make a promise to yourself. Say, I am not buying anything that is not on this list. And that is going to save you money, because it's real quick. It's real easy to spend an extra $20 on groceries. Let's talk about some more money saving tips. I have a big debate with my sister all the time. She's a single mom. She has just one son. And sometimes she'll say to me, you know what, Chelsea, it's just not worth it for me to cook at home. I can actually save money by eating out and eating fast food. So let's just take that argument and look at what we've discovered. We looked at our weekly menu. Let's just pick one of the things, the chicken fried rice, $6.19. It feeds 4 people, which means that one person serving is about, $1.50. Are you really feeding your family $1.50 per person when you eat out? I mean, you could have them order from the dollar menu, but generally, you get a cheeseburger, you get some fries, you want a drink too. That's $3 per person. So that's not always necessarily true. It's true if you are looking at the cost of the ingredients before you break it down per serving size. Because when you are having to buy 5 pounds of chicken and a whole entire bag of rice, and you're spending, actually $10 on all the ingredients, then yeah, it does seem like you're feeding your family more cheaply when you're going through fast food. But if you're using all that food in recipes later on in the week, then actually you're not saving money by going through fast food. And honestly, fast food it's tasty, it's delicious, it's not nutritious. It's not good for you, it's not good for your kids. If you eat it a lot, you feel like lethargic and gross. Like, I know we've all felt that feeling. Like, I love Sonic. I'll eat that big Sonic cheeseburger and those French fries and all the yummy sides and appetizers. But when I'm done, I feel disgusting. I feel disgusting. You don't feel that way after a good home-cooked meal. Just keep that in mind, that fast food really is not cheaper. Another argument I get a lot is that spices. Oh, Chelsea, everything that you cook, you have to buy all these spices. Well, you'll see in a Walmart grocery app, a lot of spices, you can get them generic for like $1 a can. But if that is something that seems like you don't want to spend all that money on, if you have no spices in your house to start off with, and you're not going to want your first weekly meal plan to use 40 different spices. Just pick like the first 3 or 4, and over time they'll build up. They last forever. You don't use them all at once. I've got a thing of oregano that usually it'll last you at least a year and a half. So I do think that it's worth investing in spices, because chicken and ground beef are going to be the cheapest meats. They're going to be the cheapest cuts of meat. And you can make that go a long way and make a lot of different flavorful foods that seem very different if you have a lot of different spices on hand. And so again, just to reiterate, next week, the next time we sit down and do a menu plan, we are going to look at what we didn't use from the week before. So like I said, we didn't use all the ground beef this week. So one of the first menu items that I'm going to think about next week is going to be something with ground beef. We still have some oil, some spices left over. Over time, your grocery bill is going to more closely match your menu plan total, because you'll have to buy fewer and fewer items. Like, for example, we're not going to have to buy oil again for probably 2 or 3 weeks. So just something to keep in mind. Now, if this seems daunting, and it can seem daunting, because that's a lot of math to have to do. It's a lot of planning. I really would recommend finding 14 or really even 7 great recipes, and then just cook them over and over and over again. I have a friend, she has a family, she has a 2-week meal plan. And so every 2 weeks they eat the exact same thing. And you'll remember, like back in the 50s, Sunday's meatloaf night, Tuesday's lasagna night. That's why they did that, because if you eat the same meal, if you have the same menu plan every week, you know exactly when those ingredients are on sale, you know exactly how much it's going to cost you, and your food list, which, we talk about variable budget items, you never know what you're gonna spend on food each week. You could spend $200, you could spend $900 in a month on food, just depending on which recipes you would decide to include in your menu plan. So the easiest way to control that is to pick one menu plan for the week, 7 recipes, and eat them every single week. Obviously, that's gonna get boring really, really quickly. But what are your goals? What are you trying to save money for? Is it worth it to eat maybe some boring food if you can save up enough money to buy a car and then not have to have a car payment? Is it worth it to save up enough money for a little while so that you can get a down payment on a house? It's not forever. So I would really encourage you to, if you are feeling overwhelmed, to just pick out 7 cheap recipes and rotate them week after week after week. You have to decide where the sacrifices are going to be in your life. But you have to know too, if you can just give yourself a leg up, if you can just eliminate that car payment so that you have $200, $300 more a month to spend on other things, that is going to make your life less stressful. It's going to make your life better. It's just a short-term sacrifice. So just keep that in mind. But this is how you save money when you're planning your menu plan. Obviously, this menu plan, which was about $67 to provide dinner meals for a family of 4 for a week. That's just including dinner. So what do you do for breakfast and lunch? Keep it simple. Breakfast, oatmeal is very cheap. Cereal's more expensive because you have to pay for the milk to go in there. And those, sugary cereals, they do come at a premium because, they'll run out pretty quickly. So oatmeal's very cheap. It uses a lot of milk. Eggs and toast is a great breakfast. So generally for my family, I will buy, a big container of oatmeal. I'll buy, 2 or 3 dozen eggs. Sometimes we have breakfast for dinner a lot, especially if I'm running late or if I forgot to pull the chicken out to defrost for the night. I'll just whip up, some eggs and toast and some pancakes, and we'll have breakfast for dinner. And breakfast is always a cheap dinner option. When you're buying fruits and vegetables, I really recommend looking at your local fruit stand or farmer's market. They make a joke about, white ladies always go into the fruit market, but the reason why is because the fruit's fresher and it's less expensive. So we go through a lot of tomatoes in my house, and we make like tomato salads and tomatoes on our sandwiches and things like that. We go through a lot of tomatoes. And so if you go to the grocery store, and the tomatoes at a grocery store are never very appetizing. They're always kind of like not quite red, and you cut them open, they're like white inside and they're tough and hard. We have a local fruit stand. I can get about 5 pounds, 6 pounds of tomatoes for $4. But if I go to the grocery store and get that many, it costs about 7 or 8. So it's almost half the price, and the tomatoes are actually tastier. And usually the fruit and the vegetables that you buy at a fruit market, you can eat right away. A lot of times with grocery stores, they buy them where they're not ripe yet because they don't want them to go bad on their shelves. And so if you buy it at the grocery store, you have to wait a couple of days before you can even eat it. And what's the point of that? So included in this module, you'll notice I'm going to go ahead and include the printout of our sample menu plan. If you guys want to use that, you're more than welcome to. And then a blank menu plan. And so this is for you to go ahead and start thinking about how you're going to create your menu plan for your home and start saving money.